Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advance. This game is from Checkmate USA India versus USA match that happened today, and with the black pieces we have the magician Divya Deshmukh playing against Carissa Yip, and this is going to be a very tough round because aside from the noise annoyance that is going to be there, where everyone is where USA does have the home advantage, so there will be a lot of noise for them, and they are playing as such, and in the last two games it has not gotten in India's way, and a lot of chances were there, but it was very difficult to try and capitalize on them. And even in time scramble, even in everything, there was not gotten in India's way, and USA is on a lead of 2-0. If us is able to actually win this round, then they just win the entire event, and everything is just now on Divya, and there is extremely pressure. I'm in a new environment, in a time format you never play, so a lot of things here, but still, let's see what happens here and how Divya plays. Now, with the white pieces here, e4 was played. Now c5 going for the Sicilian. We have knight to c3, e6, and just knight to f3. This is the French variation of Sicilian. We have knight to c6, d4 now. Now just comes c captures, knight to f6, and now just bishop to e2, bishop to b4 now. Castles, knight captures on c6, and now just going for d captures. The move that maybe you want to play is b captures in this position, because after b captures, the thing is that yes, you face this annoying e5 in this position, and you don't want to go to d5 most likely, because the thing is that this bishop is going to fall back, and most likely you ruin the pawn structure. This is going to be an annoyance for the rest of the game, and yes, I get all of that, but the thing is that maybe just moving with the knight back is absolutely fine, because if you go for knight to d5, then just maybe knight to e4, then even moves like moves like c3 becomes an option, moves like a3 becomes an option. There are many things in the position that you don't want to face, and still most likely, hey, white will get a certain advantage right from the opening, but you might be able to do something in the middle game. But if knight captures, we have d captures, and that is definitely just gonna give a little bit too much advantage here, because now just comes e5, and here queen caps on d1 first. Now just comes rook captures, knight to d5 was played, and even this is fine. I mean, looks like a decent advantage for white, but you can maybe just try and do something. But here knight to e4 was played. Now again, I told you both of those things, and when you're in this much pressure, when you have to win, when you're in a really must win situation, I mean, on top of everything else, I think it just gets too much in your head, and definitely then all the things, when you're not able to concentrate, when you're playing the rapid time format 10+0, everything just starts to dawn on you. And in this position here, Divya goes for a move b6, because you have to develop the bishop somehow, but b6 is not a good move in this position, and unfortunately in this position specifically it does not work, because now normally it would have worked out. I mean, what this seems like such a natural move, all you want to do is just get the bishop out of its cage. You play this bishop to b7, you cannot play bishop to a3 obviously, because that bishop is just crossing all the way. So maybe just bishop to b7, just develop that bishop, and maybe in the game finally you'll be able to develop it and maybe get it into working. But here after b6, now maybe what you should have played is bishop to a5, but it just seems so bad, because you've already played one move with the bishop, you just move the bishop back. Now c4 is coming next, you play knight to e7, knight to d6, and your position is just really it doesn't even look like an inaccuracy. But the thing is that here c4 comes, and now you understand the problem, because here after knight to c7, where is the bishop going? Because bishop has no square. Now comes bishop to g5, and you've taken the only last square. You cannot even go for a move like f6, otherwise you just lose the pawn, and h6 doesn't work in this position. What do you do in this position here? h6 was tried to push the bishop back, but here bishop to d8, and now you understand the problem, because that knight is hanging. You cannot go for a move like knight to a3, because this would just pick up the bishop, and there is no more squares, and either you just lose a piece or you just go into a worse endgame. Here knight to d5 was played immediately by Divya, trying to go for tactics in this position and banking on the fact that maybe Carissa blunders. But the thing is that right from the opening has not gone Divya's way, and only thing that can do something now is maybe her tactics, but it's just maybe it might just not be enough. His c captures was played, and c captures is the best move, unfortunately, because if you go for c caps on d5, you are attacking two pieces. But the thing is that here a3 comes, and there is no square for the bishop in this entirety. And if you go here, then just this captures, next time move the bishop away, and you cannot do that. So here just rook caps on d8, a captures on b4, but after bishop to b7, because you cannot capture this. If you capture this, I mean, you just lose the rook. So basically that's game right there. If you play bishop to b7, knight, I mean, not f6, I mean, obviously you're gonna have to move the bishop away, but after that f6, if you try to go for, then just f4 comes, and yeah, your position just completely collapses. So here after c caps on d5, we have, and what do you take it with? Do you take it with the e pawn? Do you take it with the c pawn? Well, e captures was played. Let me show you what happens if you take it with the c pawn. It's just the same, because the thing is that you're attacking both the pieces, which is normally good. But the thing is that your rooks are not connected, and that's the main problem, because a3 in this position and you just losing a piece. Because if you cannot go back, these two squares are taken, you go here, knight captures, and after captures I just move the bishop away, I'm a complete bishop up, completely winning. And if you go for rook caps on d8, just comes a caps on b4, and I cannot recapture with this pawn because my rook is pinned. So that would be a terrible way to go. So here c caps on d5 was e caps on d5 was played, but now just comes this a3, and now it's very difficult to do anything in this position. Here rook caps on d8, but here a caps on b4, and now in this position bishop to e6 was played. And now what do you do in this position? That knight is jumping in the position, I mean, you're a complete piece down. Maybe you can do something with the extra pawn, but it's very unlikely. Here just comes knight to g3, c5 now, and here just b captures, rook to d2, and just a5 was tried, but it's very highly unlikely that you can do anything in this position. And now f4 was played and g6 tried, but here in this position it doesn't work. Bishop to f3, a4 now, rook a to d1, rook a to b8, and knight to e4 was played. Knight to e4, I mean, you cannot even take, because simply because of this, and knight is jumping in next, or either here. In either of the cases, it's very difficult to try and do anything in this position. Here king to h7, if you try to go for, to try and avoid any checks, to try and not get mated, I mean, it's still, the knight is coming in. Knight, if you play knight caps on c5, basically giving up a pawn. Bishop to f5, rook caps on d5, rook captures, and the following endgame is still, I mean, lost, because you have knight caps on a4 just winning the pawn, and it's still completely losing. So you just lose the pawn, and yeah, basically then that's game. So here after knight to e4 we have c4, but here just going for knight to f6 check, king to g7, and just going for bishop caps on d5. You cannot even trade in this position, because if you trade, there is nothing. So here a3 was tried, and Divya is down to 3 minutes on the clock, but clock is not the main concern in this position. The problem is that there is not enough material, or not enough like counterplay, to be able to try and do anything in this position, and that's the problem here in this position. Just b caps on a3 was played, but now just comes c3, attacking the rook, rook to c2, and here in this position just going for rook to b5, attacking the bishop. We have rook captures on c3, calculating precisely. Here rook captures was played, knight captures, bishop captures, and now you're only down in exchange. But now exchange is not the problem is these three pawns, and most likely these three pawns somewhere along the line are going to queen. Here a4 was played, but now just comes this rook to a5, and it seems like it's a very easy winning position. But the thing is that Carissa does not play it as efficiently as she should have, because here rook to d4 was played, now just comes bishop to e6, king to f2, g5, now g3, king to g6, rook to c6, and now just going for g captures, king to f5, rook to b6, but now just comes this rook to a8. We have rook to b5, rook to c8, and a5, rook to c2 check was played, king to e3, and now just capturing that pawn. It seems like a6 and you're queening, but here rook to a2, rook to d6, rook to a3 check, king moves, and now just king caps on f4. We have rook to b7, but just rook to a4 check, and king to c5 was played. If you go for king to c3, I don't think there is much difference, because here after king caps on e5, if you go for this rook to c6, king to d5, attacking the rook, rook b to c7, and most likely here next you're just queening, and there is not much you can do. You're gonna have to either give up the rook, or if you're lucky you might just give up the bishop, but even with one rook and two pawns, this endgame is completely losing. So here after rook to a4 check, we have king to c5, and that is completely winning for Carissa as well. King caps on e5 was played, now just comes a7, rook to a5 check, king to b6, and after rook to a1, it was on this move, on just move 47, that you cannot actually lose on resignation. You cannot resign the game. So here Divya actually just her time ran out basically. So there was not much you can do in this position, as you can see with b6 coming in. I mean, seems like a natural move, but unfortunately it does not work in this position, and that is the thing that happened. And unfortunately after that it's just very difficult to survive, because you know you're just losing a piece right from the opening, and after that it's just very difficult. And even we saw in the first game that, you know, Arjun had many chances in the position. He could have won the game. I mean, with a thrust like c5, he had like many chances to push c5 in that position and try to open up the position, try and go for an attack, but he could not find the right idea. And after that it was very difficult, because hey, Fabi created a breakthrough because Arjun did not push. And afterwards, I mean, it was very difficult, because you know it just, in many instances it just didn't go India's way, because at the Arjun game India could have won very easily. I mean, with that c5 thrust he would have had very chances. I think he would have converted there, or either draw would be a very nice option there as well. In Ethan's game, Ethan played a spectacular game. Really kudos to him. He had an amazing chance to be able to win the game, but unfortunately he could not find the way. And it was not just that he could not find a way, it was very difficult. Both players were very much down on the clock, and then you had to play the perfect moves in the position, and it's never easy. But at that moment there were many easy moves for white as compared to black, and afterwards, I mean, he was not able to convert that and trying to go for a win. And after that, I mean, accepting a draw in that situation is just very, very difficult. So when Tani played the perfect move afterwards, it was just completely collapsed. But it's absolutely fine. It's chess. Some days it goes your way, some days just really, really doesn't. And it's okay if it's the day that it doesn't go your way, because India is definitely going to make an insane comeback, and they will make a really, really strong comeback. So no need to worry about that. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with such amazing games. Stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very, very much for watching.